Ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something, brother.
It's Talk Wrestling Live with Felix The Cat Katlovski
and Gemini Joe.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
We heard rumbling. No. We heard rumors. Homicide. Conan. 5150 at LAX.
Listen live on Mondays at 4 p.m. on NorthCoastUnderground.com.
And follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
I'm in no mood for your wives crack. Let's get it on.
Hey wrestling fans, this is Felix The Cat Katlovski. We're going to get started with some Fear After Dark. It's time to talk about Impact Wrestling from the January 25th episode from last week. So let's get ready for that.
Are you scared? It's time for Fear After Dark.
I thought this was fun and games.
Here's a funny thing.
¡Encelo! ¡Miedo!
Fear was meant for the art of survival. I am the new beginning.
Because we are for Ohio, because we are Ohio versus everything.
I'm better than every single one in that locker room. Tessa Blanchard is undeniable.
I'm not a man. I'm a machine.
And welcome to Fear After Dark. This is Felix The Cat Katlovski, and we're about to talk about the January 25th episode of Impact Wrestling from last week. So we started out with Rich Swann. He was taking on Hijo del Vikingo, and Vikingo, he's from AAA in Mexico. It's a wrestling promotion out there. It's pretty big. It was nice to see some AAA talents to be seen on Impact Wrestling because we rarely get to see them compete in the promotion. So great high-flying match between both competitors, but it was Rich Swann who did get the win with that 450 splash and a pinfall. Now, after the match, we did see Swann. He was celebrating, but OVE, they kind of interrupted him, and they showed up with Sami Callihan, Ohio versus everything, and we learned that Callihan and Rich Swann, they are like brothers. I mean, at least Callihan says so. Callihan, you can't always trust him, but this time, maybe you can. Callihan, he claimed that Swann only made it into this business because of Sami Callihan, and that Rich Swann would be dead in Baltimore if it wasn't for Callihan. I mean, we learned that at 18 years old that Rich Swann was homeless, and Callihan, he said that he helped Rich Swann's family, so Swann really owes Callihan. But maybe there's more to the story. But as far as Swann confirmed that this history between Callihan and Rich Swann, it's real between his family and everything. Rich Swann even said so. So Callihan just didn't make it all up. He's telling the truth. Maybe there's more to the story that meets the eye. Maybe we'll learn that from Swann. But still, Swann doesn't think it's the right fit for him to align himself with OVE. So we'll see if something else isn't going on here. I mean, think about Willie Mack. Think about Rich Swann's tag team partner. I mean, you had him screwed out before Homecoming in that Ultimate X qualifier. He didn't know the real history between Rich Swann and Sami Callihan. Rich Swann was kind of like, yeah, I don't want you to get involved in that. There's a long story over there. Let's not go there. Willie Mack, he still wanted revenge on OVE, but he didn't know this type of history existed, and now he's probably finding this out just like you and I are. So how do you feel Willie Mack is feeling finding out about all this? Because I don't think he's too happy about this. Like, we were tag team partners and you didn't even tell me about this? I mean, did Swann even mention this at all to him? I don't think he did. So what do you think Rich Swann is hiding? Now, we saw Moose and Killer Kross. They were backstage. They were being interviewed. And Kross had some strong words for Johnny Impact. He was claiming that Johnny's legacy is going to die. Well, Kross, his legacy is just beginning. So Kross said that he was planning on choking Johnny Impact out, while Moose lets us know that Brian Cage, he was having problems getting into Mexico. He was having problems getting into the country because he was stuck at the airport at customs right at the border. So Brian Cage, he might not be able to help Johnny Impact in this one. And then Jordynne Grace, she was backstage and she was with Kiera Hogan, and they were preparing for their match against Su Yung and all the mind games that Su Yung uses against everybody. But just then, you had Rosemary, and she had a message for Jordynne Grace, and Kiera Hogan because the lights, they just started to flicker. There was some kind of a message, I think, on the mirror. It was behind Jordynne Grace and Kiera Hogan in the shot. There was a couple phrases that were written on the mirror. It said, "The darkness will take you too. This is not your fight. Signed, R." So we know that's Rosemary right there. And I guess maybe this was a warning from Rosemary to Jordynne Grace and Kiera Hogan. So whose side is Rosemary really on? I mean, you see her trying to take on Allie and Su Yung, and then she saved Kiera Hogan at one point, and now Jordynne Grace and Kiera Hogan, they're trying to go back at Su Yung, and now they get this weird cryptic message from Rosemary. What does this all mean? Is nobody safe from the darkness? What's going on here? But up next, we had Kyra. She's a newcomer to Impact Wrestling. This is not Kiera Hogan. This is another wrestler. And she was taking on Taya Valkyrie, and she lost to Taya. Now, I mentioned Kiera is a newcomer to Impact Wrestling, like I said, and it wasn't really a total squash match. I mean, you had Kyra. She got some offense on Taya, but Taya did get the win at the end with that surfboard camel clutch, and she made Kyra tap out. So Kyra, she had her debut on Impact Wrestling, but she was not successful. I mean, what was she expecting? She was going up against Taya Valkyrie, the Knockouts champion. She just became the champion, beating Tessa Blanchard. So she's got momentum here. So I wasn't expecting Kyra to get the victory anyway. So, I mean, nothing lost on Kyra. She's getting started at Impact Wrestling. That's already a big accomplishment. Maybe she'll have more matches down the line. Hopefully we haven't seen the end of her in Impact Wrestling, and maybe we'll see her develop into another character where we actually start to learn more about her instead of just a random match. Now, after this match, we had Taya. She was talking about how she was happy to be back in Mexico. And for those unfamiliar with Taya Valkyrie, she is also from AAA, so she has experience in Mexico wrestling out there, lucha libre style. So this wasn't her first time in Mexico, but she was happy to be back. And she was talking about how Killer Kross, he ruined the night for her at Homecoming back in Nashville when he powerbombed her into the fans, and he sent her to the hospital afterwards. But she said that Johnny Impact will take care of things tonight in his match against Killer Kross. So looks like Johnny Impact, Taya Valkyrie's husband, he's going to get revenge for her. Now, as for Tessa Blanchard, Taya mentioned that she got suspended, so she's not going to be here in Mexico. But when she does return, business will pick up between them because there's unfinished business right there. Taya still had a message to all the other knockouts on the roster in Impact Wrestling because she has a message for them too, because she's the champion and she's trying to hold her championship. She doesn't want to lose it. So she's a fighting champion and she's going to deliver on that. And there's not a way that she's going to try to allow herself to lose that title. So it's all about the goal, keeping that belt for her and sending that message that nobody's safe, because if you get in her way, you're going to be knocked down just like everybody else. So that's Taya Valkyrie. We also saw Trey Miguel. He's from the Rascals. And he talked about how he would defeat Ethan Page later in the night. But for some reason, I guess he was confused that he thought he was in Canada instead of Mexico. He was really in Mexico. I wasn't really getting this. They just kind of got confused over there. One of those That 70s Show moments. And then we had Scarlett Bordeaux. She was training in a workout gym and she ate an entire banana. She just scarfed it all down. I guess this had to be censored. I'm not sure what's offensive about that, but I guess some people get offended over some kind of sexually graphic content. I don't know. She was just eating a banana. I mean, I don't know. Some people eat lollipops, whatever. But she's saying that she's going to be debuting her in-ring career in 3 weeks on Impact Wrestling. So 3 weeks from that night. So I guess it's going to be 2 weeks from now. So we're all excited to see Scarlett Bordeaux having her in-ring debut at Impact Wrestling. We did see her compete. I think she competed during the BCW anniversary show. I think it was on the Global Wrestling Network app, which you can check out at a subscription. I think it's like $7.99. So check that out if you missed it. We had the Desi Hit Squad. That's Rohit Raju and Raj Singh. They lost to the Rascals. That's Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz, so that tag team's happy about that. All the Rascals must be thrilled with their victory. So we had Johnny Impact. He was happy to see his wife back in Impact Wrestling, and you could imagine this was fueling him to get revenge on Killer Kross for what he did to her at Homecoming. But Johnny Impact, he was not worried about Brian Cage not being able to be there because he was stuck at Customs, and he even welcomed Moose to try to get involved in his match against Killer Kross. So Johnny Impact's not afraid of anything, especially after what happened to his wife. He's got a lot of revenge to go after both Killer Kross and Moose. Now, Ethan Page, he went on to lose to Trey Miguel. Now, what's interesting is we haven't seen Matt Sydal lately. There's rumors as of late that he's had offers from WWE and AEW, so the word is that he might be done with Impact Wrestling. I can't confirm that, but that's what everybody's saying on the internet right now. But of course, as you know, you can't believe everything people say on the internet, so don't believe it until it's official. Now, we learned that Eli Drake, he set up a tag team match between himself and Eddie Edwards against the Rascals for next week on Impact Wrestling. But what's odd about that is Eli Drake, I mean, he still has some kind of a beef with Eddie Edwards. They had a match previously, and Eli Drake, he keeps on saying that Eddie Edwards, he's gone crazy. He used to be the world champion, and then he went crazy doing this hardcore wrestling stuff. It wasn't really getting him anywhere. He has this kendo stick he actually named Kenny, and he talks to it. I mean, the guy went totally bizarre lunatic. And Eli Drake, he wants to stop that. He wants to see Eddie Edwards focused again and with a clear head, because, I mean, he was just attacking everybody before. So he wants Eddie Edwards to stop this stuff with the hardcore wrestling. He wants him to stop this stuff with the kendo stick. Just get back to that old Eddie Edwards, that fighting champion that he used to be. But does Eli Drake just want to weaken Eddie Edwards? Does he want to make him like not as crazy so he knows what to expect? Because a crazy Eddie Edwards is unhinged, but it looks like Eddie Edwards doesn't appreciate all this, what Eli Drake is trying to do to change him, to change his ways. But they're going to have to coexist somehow, because they're going to be taking on the Rascals, and if there's miscommunication, we're all going to see it, and so will the Rascals, and they'll definitely use that for their advantage. So we'll see if they can coexist as a team, both Eli Drake and Eddie Edwards, for next week's Impact against the Rascals. And then we had Johnny Impact. In the main event, he was going up against Killer Kross. He was defending his Impact World Championship, Johnny Impact. And you could tell both men, they wanted to hurt each other. I mean, this was not a wrestling match. This was definitely a fight. And Johnny, he wanted to get Kross for what he did to his wife. And Kross, he just went crazy. But this match, it went to a no contest, like I mentioned. This was not a wrestling match. It was definitely a fight. But it went to no contest because Brian Cage, he got involved. And so when he did show up, you had Cage attacking Moose. And after the match, you had the ring being cleared out, and Johnny Impact, he was just staring down Brian Cage. And you had Johnny Impact posing with his Impact World Championship belt. And that's pretty much how Impact closed. And we're going to be talking about what's coming soon to Impact Wrestling right after this.
Ride the winds, flying far and soaring like a hawk.
Run a marathon with the endurance of a tiger.
Swim across the ocean like a dolphin.
Beast Energy X. Do you have it in you?
Buy Beast Energy X at all Waffle Max locations and unleash the beast in you.
Join the Beast Energy X fan club and get free perks. Sign up by following us on Twitter at Beast Energy X.
Welcome back to Talk Wrestling Live.
Follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
I'm not finished with you!
And now, let's get back to the show. Hey everybody, this is Felix The Cat Katlovski, and this is Talk Wrestling Live. You've just been listening to Fear After Dark, where we were covering the Impact Wrestling from January 25th. But now we're going to be talking about what's to come on Impact Wrestling when we start Lights Out. So let's get ready for that.
Hello, ladies.
Shot 5, a 10 is talking.
I'm surprised you're containing yourself. It's like looking at a work of art, John. Scarlett Bordeaux has arrived on Impact Wrestling. Oh my God.
They tell them to cover up. I will not be hot-shamed.
Talk about making an impact.
Make wrestling sexy again.
Scarlett Bordeaux has arrived. And now she's leaving, and it's, oh Lord.
Turn the lights down low, because it's time for Impact Lights Out.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Talk Wrestling Live. This is Felix The Cat Katlovski, and you're listening to Lights Out, where we're going to talk about everything that's coming soon to Impact Wrestling. And we already covered the recap from January 5th on Fear After Dark, so let's get this started with Lights Out. Now, we know for Impact Wrestling on February 1st, that's this week, on Friday, we're going to have another episode of Impact Wrestling on the Pursuit channel, and if you don't have the Pursuit channel, you can watch it on Twitch for free. practically anybody with the smartphone or the internet can use it and watch it from anywhere in the world on Twitch, and they can watch Impact Wrestling for free. So if you don't have Pursuit Channel, you can watch it on Twitch. You just have to know how to use technology. So for the matches that we know that are going to be happening on this week's Impact Wrestling on February 1st, we know that we're going to have the Lucha Bros and Taurus versus LAX and Daga. Now, these teams, the Lucha Bros and LAX, they have some beef with each other, but we haven't really seen Taurus and Daga. I believe those are guys from AAA in Mexico, so that's cool that we get to see them in the promotion being featured. I think I previously saw Daga in Lucha Underground, so I've seen him there as well. Now, we also have Ali. She's going to be with Su Yung, and they're going to be facing Jordan Grace and Kiera Hogan. So I wonder if Rosemary's going to get involved, because she said herself that it's not Jordan Grace or Kiera Hogan's fight. So I guess that's her way of saying this isn't their battle and that they're not safe from the darkness either. So maybe we'll see what side Rosemary's on. Maybe she'll reveal her colors and we'll know who she's really representing. We also know that the Rascals, they're going to be taking on Eddie Edwards and Eli Drake. So we'll see if Eddie Edwards and Eli Drake can coexist, because you had Eddie Edwards, he turned to this hardcore wrestler before he was the world champion of Impact. He was a fighting champion, and he just lost his mind, went crazy, I think, from Sami Callihan. They had some history over there, and you'd seen a complete transformation in Eddie Edwards. I mean, like I said, he went from this role model, world champion, to this bizarre lunatic, Eddie Edwards, calling this kendo stick his friend, Kenny, talking to it. The guy lost his mind. He was kicked out of his house from his wife. So a lot of weird things going on right there. But Eli Drake, either he wants to see a weaker Eddie Edwards, make him more of what to expect, less unhinged, or maybe he really felt bad for him and he wanted to see him rise to the top again. So now they're going to have to coexist as a tag team, but Eddie Edwards, he still doesn't want to give that kendo stick up. So we'll see if they can get on the same page or if they drift further apart, because they are taking on the Rascals, and the Rascals, they have a lot to prove as well, because, I mean, you have Eli Drake. He's been a world champion at Impact Wrestling, and so has Eddie Edwards. So imagine yourself as a tag team to get a win over these two former world champions. Imagine what that could do for your career. So the Rascals definitely have a lot to prove in this match. Then we also know that Rich Swann, he's finally going to speak about his past with Sami Callihan. So maybe Willie Mack will find out more. He'll probably ask, why didn't you tell me about this, Rich? Why didn't you mention this before? And maybe that'll drift something between their team apart, because they are tag team partners. I wouldn't be happy if my tag team partner didn't tell me that there was some kind of history that existed with one of my enemies and that they're closer than you really think. So a lot of questions to be asked, and we're looking for a lot of answers from Rich Swann. We'll see if we get those answers or if it's going to take longer to understand what history he has with Sami Callihan. But things are definitely heating up. I mean, we learned last week that Sami Callihan, he claimed that Rich Swann owes him his life, his career, because he said that Rich Swann was homeless when he was, I think, 17 or 18, and Sami Callihan, it was him who helped Rich Swann's family. So this is getting pretty heated, because Rich Swann, he still hasn't really made up his mind whether he wants to align himself with OVE. I mean, you saw OVE previously. They gave Rich Swann a t-shirt. They threw it at him. They said, put it on. He didn't really put it on. He was just thinking about it. He still has this hesitation to join them. What's going on there? So we'll see what kind of situation Rich Swann finds himself in. Now, that's everything that we know that's going to be happening on Impact Wrestling on the Pursuit Channel and Twitch for this week's Friday episode on January 25th. There's still Twitch specials that are going on. Last week we had, on the same night as the NXT TakeOver in Phoenix pay-per-view, the same night we had a Twitch special between Impact Wrestling versus WrestlePro. It was called Battle of Brooklyn. So that was a show that you could have checked out for free on Twitch. And if you missed it, you can still check it out if you go to Impact Wrestling's page on Twitch and you look for their past broadcast section. You can watch it for free. I can guarantee you that they did archive this episode. Unfortunately, they have not been archiving weekly episodes of Impact Wrestling on Twitch, so you really have to catch that on that first airing. Otherwise, you have to DVR it if you do get the Pursuit Network, or you have to really tune into those underground streams if you can find those. So I mentioned the Twitch special that happened last week on Saturday, but this week on Saturday, there's going to be another Twitch special on February 2nd. It's going to be live on Twitch. It's called Brace for Impact, and it's in association with Smash Wrestling. It's going to be taking place in London, Ontario, and I believe you can watch it at 7 p.m. That's the bell time for the event. Now, a lot of memorable names came out of Smash Wrestling. We had Allie. She came from there, and there's probably many more names that I just can't think of on the top of my head right now. But I know Allie, she for sure came from Smash Wrestling. That's where she started before Impact Wrestling. So we'll see if there's any tie-in with that. We'll see if there's any kind of matches that maybe there's wrestlers that have history with each other, even though maybe you really haven't heard of these Smash Wrestling guys. Maybe you'll be more accustomed to them after this show. And maybe there will be some kind of beef that picks up. And maybe it does carry on with some of these Impact Wrestling stars. So it's good to see when Impact Wrestling works with other promotions. We saw them with WrestlePro before. We saw them with Big Time Wrestling. And now they're going to be working with Smash Wrestling. So I wonder what's going to happen with that. It's good that Impact Wrestling, they're going back to Canada. They were just in Mexico. I think they taped like 5 events in Mexico, 5 tapings for Impact Wrestling, their weekly show. But now they're going to be in Canada for this Twitch special. Impact Wrestling is a Canadian company. They have Canadian referees. Anthem, they're based out of Canada. And the Aspire Group, which owns them all. So the Fight Network, that's out of Canada as well. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of hold Impact Wrestling can get on the Canadian market, because I know there's a lot of hungry wrestling fans out in Canada that want a wrestling company to support. And, you know, some fans, maybe they're not satisfied with the World Wrestling Entertainment, and it's always good when they have other options to choose from, and this could be Impact Wrestling and Smash Wrestling as well. So check that out on Twitch this Saturday at 7 p.m. It's free if you know how to use technology. If you don't, learn how to. It's not that hard. And that does it for this week's episode of Talk Wrestling Live, talking about Impact Wrestling. So tune in next week when we talk more about our thoughts from Royal Rumble. Hopefully we can get Gemini Joe back and he can give us his 2 cents on the event, as well as Takeover from Phoenix. And we can hear how he felt about the event, what matches he was entertained by and what match he thought was boring. But that does it for this week's show on Talk Wrestling Live. Join us next week on NorthCoastUnderground.com, where the underground starts with you. This is Talk Wrestling Live. Felix the Cat signing off.
You've been listening to Talk Wrestling Live. Listen live on Mondays at 4 p.m. on NorthCoastUnderground.com.
And follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
Goodbye.